Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this 768th stated meeting of the Philadelphia Historical Commission. I'm Zach Frankel, the chair of the Philadelphia Historical Commission. We will start by going around to my left and have the commissioners introduce themselves.
Kyle O'Connor with the Department of Public Property.
Good morning, Matthew Treat, representing Department of Planning and Development.
Bob Thomas, an architect here in Philadelphia and a member of the commission.
Good morning, Mina Monavarian, designee of Planning Commission Chair.
Franz Robauer.
Emily Cooperman, good morning. Architectural and Landscape Historian and Chair of the Historic Designation Committee.
Good morning, John Leck, representing the Department of Licenses and Inspections.
Good morning, Kim Washington, representing a community organization and the Vice Chair of the Commission.
Good morning, Abri Mohammed, representing the Department of Commerce.
Good morning, Dan McCoubry, architect and chair of the Architectural Review Committee.
Thank you all. And now I will turn it over to Dr. John Farnham, who's going to say a few words about how this meeting is conducted. And we're also going to pause for a minute to honor the passing of Janet Klein, who is a dear member of the Philadelphia preservation community, who just recently passed, and John will say a few words about her contributions and take a minute to honor her memory.
Thank you and good morning. First, this meeting is being recorded, and by participating in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. The recording will be available later today or perhaps on Monday on the Historical Commission's website, and that is www.phila.gov/historical. Also on the website, you will find everything you need to participate in today's meeting, the agenda, applications, nominations, and any public comment received by noon yesterday. Matters on the agenda include an opportunity for comment. If you'd like to comment and you're here in the room, just make yourself known. If you're out on Zoom, you will need to raise your hand during the public comment period. And once you've been acknowledged to speak by the chair, you will need to unmute yourself if you're out on Zoom. And if you happen to be on a standard telephone, *9 to raise your hand and *6 to mute and unmute. The commission typically makes its decisions by unanimous consent, but if there is apparent disagreement among commissioners, we can conduct a roll call vote. And then finally, the Historical Commission has adopted guidelines for conduct at its meetings. Those guidelines include time limits for speaking, order of presentation. If you're unfamiliar with them, please look at them on the public meetings page of the website. And as the chair noted, we wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the passing of Janet Klein, who sadly died on August 4th, and to thank her for her service. Janet served as the vice chair of the Historical Commission from 1976 to 1985, and then on the Committee on Historic Designation from 1979 to 2019. So for 43 years, she volunteered her services to the Philadelphia Historical Commission. She also served in various positions at arts, cultural, educational, and preservation organizations in the city, including the Fairmount Park Commission, the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission, where she was chair. She was a tireless advocate for preservation and an incredibly generous person. I had the honor of working with her from 2002 until she resigned from the committee in 2019, so for 17 years. And she was really dedicated to public service.
Thank you, John. We appreciate those fantastic words, and we'll certainly think about Janet throughout this meeting. Thank you very much. So with that, we'll dive into today's agenda. The first motion is to the adoption of the minutes from the 767th stated meeting of the Philadelphia Historical Commission. Is there a motion to adopt those minutes?
So moved.
Any in opposition? Hearing no opposition, that motion is adopted by unanimous consent. Thank you very much, commissioners. We'll move on to our first item, which is a continuance request for 1910 Chestnut Street. Request to continue to the September 2026 meeting, the Historical Commission. Motion. Is there a motion to continue this?
Dan McCoubry, so moved.
I'll second.
Any commissioners in opposition? Hearing no opposition, that motion is adopted by unanimous consent. Thank you very much, commissioners. Next, we'll turn over to Dan McCoubry and the report of the Architectural Committee. On the consent agenda is 124 and 126 South 7th Street. And the first item on today's agenda is 1018 Winter Street. And we will turn over to Allison from the Philadelphia Historical Commission to present them.
Before you move ahead to 1018 Winter Street, we'd need a motion to adopt the consent agenda, which for those unfamiliar with it is adopting the recommendation made by the Architectural Committee without discussion because there was no objection among committee members, applicant, or the public at the Architectural Committee meeting.
Sure. Sorry about that. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Any commissioners in opposition? Hearing no opposition, the consent agenda is adopted by unanimous consent. And now we will move into 1018 Winter Street, and I'll turn it over to Allison from the Historical Commission staff to present. Thank you, Allison.
Good morning, everyone. This application proposes demolishing the main front block and a portion of the rear L at 1018 Winter Street and reconstructing the main block with an additional floor and new roof with dormer. Construction of a second and third story and roof deck are proposed at the rear. The building was constructed in 1830 and retains a high level of historic integrity with its form, features, and material. The property was added to the Philadelphia Register of Historic Places individually in 1974. Although the rear of the property includes a parking area at the back of the building is not visible from the public right-of-way. The project was first presented to the Commission and the committee at the February 24th, 2026 Architectural Committee, and also at the April 24th, 2026 meeting of the Historical Commission. It proposed substantial demolition of the front of the building. The Architectural Committee recommended denial. The applicant presented a significantly revised application to the Historical Commission that made the front of the building. The Historical Commission commended the applicant at that time at the April meeting, saying the revised application was moving the project in the right direction. The Commission asked the applicant to continue to develop the revised proposal and provide a structural engineering report on the building, owing to its poor condition. The Commission did not approve or deny the application, but instead remanded the application back to the Architectural Committee for an additional review because of the magnitude of the revisions between the committee and the Commission meetings. So the application submitted for this meeting includes the requested structural report and a revised scope of work. The application is substantially different than the version presented at the April 2026 meeting of the Historical Commission. So the Architectural Committee voted to recommend denial pursuant to standards 2, 9, and 10. And I just wanted to make a couple comments just to say that the staff has met with the applicant and owner outside of meetings to discuss the project and encourage the applicant to focus its expansion on the rear of the property. It should also be noted that while the Commission has no jurisdiction over use, it does regularly approve large additions at the rear of historic properties to allow transition to multifamily housing. The goal for increased density on this parcel has not been discouraged or denied by the Commission. What remains in question is the location of the additional living space and how to do this based on historic preservation standards. So in the meeting today, we have the owner of the property, Harry Leong, and we have the applicant, architect, Sam Shu. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. We'll now turn over to the property owner.
So we've been working on this property probably about 8 years now.
Thanks. About 8 years now, and we over the pandemic there was an issue with getting contractors at the time. So the initial application was expired 6 years. Then we applied again through the city, and it was approved to move on with the project. So having Sam as architect and also the engineers, I pretty much lean on them to provide input in the structure and development. Basically, I want to move back into the building. I'm currently living in the community, but at another building, and I want to basically move back and I want to have additional units in the building. I think that's pretty much it.
Great, thank you very much. We'll now turn over to commissioners for any questions or comments.
The architectural committee agreed with the staff's assessment. And I think both the engineer and the contractor on the committee question possibly the need to really demolish the front of this building. And that in many instances, facades such as this in this condition can be salvaged and retained. That said, if the front facade was demolished, the guidelines would require it to be rebuilt as it currently exists. This would obviously, with the addition of the third floor, is this substantial change from the historic building. And I think it is individually designated, as is its neighbor on the right-hand side in this view. The committee also then urged the applicant to consider adding the density to the rear as had been proposed in the scheme that was shown to the commission some time ago.
Thank you, Dan. Any other questions or comments from commissioners at this time? Seeing no comments, are there any comments from the public at this time?
No hands are raised.
Is there a motion from commissioners at this time?
I will make a motion of denial of demolitions and alterations proposed at 1018 Winter Street.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any commissioners in opposition? Go ahead.
In the motion, do we want to include a recommendation? To look to the rear space?
I think the recommendation does exist in the committee meeting
Okay.
minutes
All right.
and
Well,
the
then
prior.
it's in the
commission.
minutes today.
Yeah.
No, the thing that we're thinking is that if you have an owner's unit and you want to have rental units, that instead of going vertical, if you go horizontal and do that, have an owner's unit, for example, in the second, and perhaps, other things in the back, you go up and then have, rental at the lower level. You have square footage available, so we're asking that this denial is saying, please take a look at how to keep the historic building or repair it or replace the front block, and at the same time get the program that you want.
Yeah. Hang on one second. Are there any commissioners in opposition? Hearing no opposition, that motion is passed by unanimous consent. Thank you very much, commissioners. As with all motions or anything that comes before our committee, our historic commission staff is always here to work with you to understand what the feasible options are within the structure of the historic designation in order to achieve your goals. So I think there is a path forward. I don't want you to take this the wrong way.
Yeah, we actually try different ways to meet the requirements because the front gable section is very poorly built. the stairs are very narrow. And even on the same level, it has 3 levels on one floor. The stairs are narrow, and the depth is well under the today's standards, and it's turning like 90 degrees. It's even if we restore it, it would be not as useful and just not functionally meeting today's requirements. And also because the engineering report is saying the front wall need to be rebuilt, and then right now it's already star ties on it, and we don't want to keep adding more to it. And even we adding more star to it, the bricks were already not visible as original. It's painted many times. It has decayed, water damage, and all that. Also, the roof rafters, they are sagging, undersized, as the engineering report points out. We have to deal all those kind of issues. The middle section during the, I guess, who knows when, was modified. The ceiling was very low. It's barely 7 feet tall. And even if we try to restore it, how are we going to use those?
I understand the constraints. And I think that the Historic Commission staff will certainly understand the constraints as well. And I know there will be a workable solution to this, but the solution that's been put forward for the committee today has not been approved. So I would advise you to go back and work with the Historic Commission staff to understand what can be done feasibly within the realm of historic designation to get to a solution that will create a feasible use for the property that suits both you as well as the Historical Commission.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I just want, I think you understand, we regulate only the exterior.
Yes.
So many historic buildings, including my own office building, right? We adjusted the floors, we got the stairs, because it was on the inside. There wasn't, we were able to get rid of all the non-conforming things and make it work. So the staff will be very helpful.
Yeah,
in giving
yeah.
you some ideas and direction.
The problems were because the constraint of the space.
We have a long agenda.
Yeah.
I just wanted to encourage you, really meet with the staff. I think you'll find
Right.
it'll be very helpful discussion.
Yeah, one more comment, if I could please.
Yes.
Out of the about dozens houses on the same block, just about every one of them, every one has changed significantly. Only the one, I think, is 3 houses to the right that looks maybe closely to original, but everything else is changed. Even this house, the roof's changed, the stormers material changed, everything. It's not the original anymore.
Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you so much, our applicants. Next, we move on to our next item, 1504 Pine Street has been continued to the September meeting of the Historic Commission. We'll move on to 1601 Mount Vernon Street. We'll turn it over to Dan from the Historic Commission staff to present.
Good morning, everybody. Could we elevate Nashe Patois? Hope I said that right. And Brian Flanagan to panelist. I suspect that Brian is listed under Brian's iPhone or cell phone on the list of applicants or the list of participants. If he could maybe raise his hand to be sure that he's the right guy. And I will read a brief overview. This application calls for amending the Historical Commission's July 2023 approval for the rehabilitation of the Robert Purvis House. The developer seeks approval to substitute cast stone for marble on the front facade stoop and door surround, owing to the high cost of marble. The applicant is not proposing to install cast stone or marble at the water table as shown on the previously approved plans. And you see those on the left in your image there. This change is represented by the annotations on the right. The property at 1601 Mount Vernon Street is significant in the Spring Garden Historic District owing to its association with Robert Purvis. a Black anti-slavery activist, writer, and lecturer who resided at the property for the final years of his life, circa 1875 to 1898. Over the last few decades, the property languished and was subject to multiple violations, proposed but unimplemented plans, and court orders culminating in an Act 135 conservatorship. The city demolished the rear L to abate a dangerous condition in 2012. After years of deterioration and legal proceedings, the property is being rehabilitated. The bottom, okay. So this is the property under rehabilitation now. And then the bottom image that you see here is from 2012, showing that deteriorated rear section. And then the upper picture is once that had been demolished. The Architectural Committee wanted more information regarding the cost of the marble versus the cast stone to better understand the need for the material substitution. They also wanted to know how the cast stone elements would be secured to the building to properly replicate the design details and proportions of the marble surrounds, stoops, and water tables found elsewhere on the block and in the Spring Garden Historic District. The Architectural Committee recommendation is denial owing to incompleteness and to Standard 6. And with that, I'm concluding my presentation.
Thank you very much, Dan. We'll now turn over to the applicant if they're available.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. My name is Nishay Patois. I'm the owner of this project. I know Brian Flanagan from Flanagan Masonry is also on. I don't know if he's been elevated. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you are. Okay, great. All right, thank you. So the reason why we are coming before the board is because we're proposing a material change from marble to cast stone on this project. So just as a background from when we took over this project. So I first bought this property in 2023. Through my architect, we brought the original plans to the board, and much of the notes from our architects just states that we would use the material, a similar material from the property next door, and that architect did not consider cost, and we did not understand what the material was. So after starting construction, it became apparent to us that we had to use a certain type of marble, which had to be sourced from Vermont, I believe it is. And we received several quotes. Brian's actually being the cheapest. He's done most of the brickwork on our project. And even with him being the cheapest, that price is still coming in around $100K for the cost of the marble, a water table, and the door surround, as well as the lintels and sills for the window. That cost is more than, 15% of our entire budget for this project. And in this project, we have built a like 60% addition to the project. And that's such a large amount going towards just this marble. We just can't afford it. It's creating such a burden on us that we would not be able to complete this project. And as the board knows, this property has been sitting in disrepair for many years. And we're just looking to try to complete this project. We're on very strict time constraints because of our construction loan. And we are coming to a point where we may face irreparable harm, where we're not going to be able to finish this project. We're not going to be able to afford it. So yeah, we brought this proposal for change in material before the board, and it has already gone before the architectural board. And we've spoken with staff members from the historical board, and it was recommended that we use cast stone material. So we have been trying to price out the cast stone. We do not have exact pricing. Brian, he will speak to cost, but he did mention that cast stone will be about one-third the cost of the marble, what the marble is costing. So that would save us approximately $70,000 for the marble surround. and such. So that we're looking for the change in the material. Additionally, we have found many properties in the neighborhood that do use alternative material for door surrounds. And we are looking for approval to do that. Now, in addition to that, we had to move the project along. We were installing windows. We got approval from the board. We installed windows. After opening the walls and trying to also fix the corner, because there was a storefront there on the corner. When we were trying to fix that corner to make sure the building was stable, we had to place brick. And we noticed, well, we found that there were structural beams there, so that had to be cut in order to, fix the building. Brian could speak more to this, but as part of like making the building structurally stable, we had to install the brick in the front on the bottom where the water table would go. And as I understand, it without, it costing a lot of money, we wouldn't really be able to remove that brick so that the water table would be recessed into the brick as it is in other projects. And in addition to that, we did survey the neighborhood, and we noticed that other corner properties do not have water tables. And our corner property did not have a water table. Yeah, so that's a corner property. That's actually the CDC building. That's not a corner property. That's next to the CDC building. This project right here, that's next to the CDC building. That is not a corner property, and as you can see, there's no water table there. And we have just surveyed there, and there are some storefronts that we surveyed here, but then there are some buildings that are not storefronts, that are residential. Not that is a storefront. If you can just go on, there's another one. That is residential. That still includes the corner entrance, but you can see that there is no water table there. That basically our window it looked just like this, except there was brick on the bottom. So we were basically, our building did not have brick. And did not have a marble water table or a cast stone water table. So we just wanted, we proposed that we just remove that corner entrance and move the entrance to the side, similar to the property next door, just to create that residential look. And with that, it was then proposed that we include the marble water table, but we did not know the implications of everything that we were doing now. And now we have realized that it is almost impossible. I'm pretty sure impossible. And Brian will speak more to this, but it's impossible for us to remove that brick that was placed there for stability purposes to put that recessed water table in.
Great. Thank you, Nishay.
Thank you.
With that, we will turn over to commissioners for comments.
Well, do we need Brian to speak? Because Brian actually did not speak.
What's that? I know Brian has comments. We have a long agenda today, Brian. If you could please keep it brief. We heard a lot from the applicant.
Sure. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Just to follow up on the Shay said there. So for me to take that brick down, and it wouldn't be feasible to take the brick down and install stone in there. We kind of had to do this as a make-safe and that kind of reason, because the building was starting to move and stuff. So because they're hold up on the decision on the stone, we installed the brick. And I don't think there's no way we can take out the brick on the bottom, like 2 or 3 foot, and install stone at the minute. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. All right. With that, questions and comments from commissioners. My first comment is, if you guys have a stone selection or there's a plan that's put in place with drawings or renderings that has been approved by or seen by the Architectural Commission.
No, that was a concern of the committee. There
Right.
were no details of, how you achieve the dimensions of the surround and cast stone, which requires a little reinforcing in it. And so I think there was just questions about the details. The committee was a split on the use of cast stone. I think several members felt that cast stone would be appropriate if its color matched the marble in the adjoining building. By the way, the marble in that adjoining building is also new. That was, that building is entirely new, actually. But they replicated the original appearance. So I would say the concern really is the details of the cast stone and how it will be done to match the adjoining marble surrounds and stoop.
Sure.
Regarding the base, that was a question. I do agree that cutting the brick out to install a base would be a difficult, it is possible, but it would be difficult.
Yeah. Any other comments from commissioners?
Yeah, I think we're suffering at the moment, at least I am, from a question of whether, do we have documentation about whether there was a marble water table on this building and when did it disappear? Do you know, Dan?
I don't know. We do not have any historic photographs of this building.
Yeah.
I will say that for residential buildings, these marble water tables are very common.
Oh, yeah,
throughout the
absolutely.
neighborhood. So our strong, absent any physical evidence or images, we felt like just the strongest case should be made, as was in the originally approved plans, that there would be a water table and a surround matching the one next door.
Yeah, that makes sense. What I'm thinking is that the house was designated as the home of Robert Purvis, and not for its architecture per se. And so I think, in my mind anyway, that makes the cast stone more acceptable. I am struggling with the fact that we don't have evidence about, whether there was a water table, there wasn't a water table. I totally agree that was a very common feature, and it would make sense to assume that. But I think if this were a property that were designated as a high-style building that retained its historic water table formally, and then we had documentation about it, I think that would put that in a different category in my mind from where we are. That being said, I don't have anything to add to what Dan was saying about the questions of attachment and dimension and so on. But I think in my mind, there is a plausible argument for cast stone should it look appropriate and be able to be attached appropriately.
I think there's many steps between cast stone and marble. There's a lot of materials in there that could suffice for architectural commission meetings. It's not so binary. I'm sure that there's something that can be found that is not cost prohibitive to the owner and also satisfies the architectural committee. So my suggestion would be, if I could make a motion, I will, the approval of the facade pending architectural commission's approval of the materials and design.
Did we have any public comment?
Yeah, that was for discussion purposes. Is there a public comment at this time?
Yes, 3 hands are raised.
Sure.
First Lori Arnold, then Oscar Bizert, then Justino.
Great. Please go ahead, Lori.
Hi, my name is Lori Arnold. I work with I'm the historic preservation specialist for the school district. This property has been derelict for so long. The corner has meant nothing. And it was originally a corner property, which if you look in the neighborhood, none of those have water tables on them. They were commercial on the bottom, and none of them have that water table. Second, as an architectural conservator, cast stone is a completely acceptable substitute for marble. And if approving cast stone would get this property finished and establish that corner, then, I recommend passing it. Cast stone, can be made to look like marble. Is it ideal? No. But in today's construction industry, it's cost prohibitive to require marble be used when this property's been derelict for so long. But thank you. That's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you, Lori. Next, we'll hear from Oscar Beiser.
I just wanted to follow up with what Lori said, Oscar Beiser here, that the cast stone to me is a perfectly acceptable alternative. And, I think in certain situations, unless the building is designated as architecturally significant, the staff should really be able to approve that use if it matches the original stone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from our last member of the public. Anyone else? in
Good
the public?
morning.
Morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you. My name is Justino Navarro with the Spring Garden CDC. And I just wanted to make a few comments with regards to this project. The Spring Garden CDC, as many of you know, working with the commission for many years on this project, was the designated conservator in the Act 135 case. So I'm intimately involved with this project in the initial stages. We did as many repairs to the project and restoration, saved it from demolition and collapse as much as we could before we were put a kibosh on additional fixes from the Court of Common Pleas, Judge Fox there. This property and our research, and at that time, our point person was Randy Barron at the commission, was a mirror image of the property to the west, right next door. So to suggest that it did not have a marble water table, I think is not inconsistent with the facts that are in the archives of the Historical Commission. Also, our concern is that, this is a restoration project. This is a significant building, and I think that the history of this building was a big reason why the applicant purchased this property. We know how difficult the project is. And I think that the use of period, appropriate materials such as marble is the way to go with regards to honoring the legacy of this property in the district, in the state, and in the Spring Garden Historic District. Another concern that we have with regards to cast stone is that, this was set a precedent in the Spring Garden Historic District, as well as other districts throughout the city. And that's a grave concern that we have. So we would encourage the property owner to secure additional estimates from other providers of stone, because we felt that the prices that were presented were quite excessively inflated, even in today's inflated market. In addition to that, I'd like to comment on 603 North 17th Street, which is the property that the applicant pointed out as being next to the Spring Garden CDC office. That's, of course, as I mentioned, 603 North 17th Street. That was a part of our Affordable Housing Phase 2 project that went through the proper 106 reviews, the proper reviews at the Historical Commission. Randy Barron was my contact at that point. And that property, when we took over that property, was an existing condition. That water table, the lack of a water table there is exactly what a condition that we inherited. It probably did have a water table at a certain point in time in its history. But as you can see, we did go consistent with the National Park Service's approvals. We did go with marble lintels and sills as much as we, and all of our restoration of all of the properties in the Spring Garden Historic District. And the properties that are mentioned and illustrated in the photographs in this application are reflective of new construction. And new construction, I totally agree, cast stone is a compatible material to the Spring Garden Historic District. But we are very concerned with something other than marble on the use of this very significant building to its history and the Spring Garden Historic District and throughout the entire city of Philadelphia. So with that, I will yield my time. Thank you so much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Great. Are there any other public comments?
Chair Frankel, Lori Arnold, who was the first to speak, has raised her hand again.
Thank you, Lori. Given that we have a long agenda today, we would ask that you keep it as brief as possible.
Yeah, I just want to say, having lived in this neighborhood for 30 years, and being as outspoken as I have been against the Spring Garden CDC, I think this, when Randy was providing advice, that was a different world than we live in now. Marble didn't cost then what it does now. And the Spring Garden CDC has consistently over the years put roadblocks in front of people trying to develop and improve the neighborhood on their own without Spring Garden CDC input. So I take issue with Justino's comments. We have to be a little flexible in today's world with the way economics are now. Thank you. I
Thank
yield
you,
my
Lauren.
time.
Thank you.
Justino has now raised his hand.
Ugh. We're not going to go back and forth on this. In the interest of being fair, I'll give you a few seconds to say your piece, but we're not going to go back and forth on this issue. So this is going to be the last time that these two public speakers comment. Go ahead.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chair. And I agree, we're not going to get back, we're not going to get into a back and forth here. That's actually ridiculous. I just want to say that I take issue and exception to the comments that Lori Arnold made. If she has concerns or discussions that she wants to take up with the Spring Garden CDC, she can reach out to me and we can have those discussions. We believe in we believe in the preservation of the historic district, and that's what we always strive for. Thank you so much.
Understood. Thank you. Okay. Seeing no other public comment, are there any comments from commissioners at this time, or is there a motion?
I have one comment,
Go
or
ahead.
question actually. 1603, did that go through full historical commission review?
Yes, that is an entirely new building. It was a
Yes.
vacant lot.
may-
It was approved.
They went to great lengths to match everything. That's the one question I have. If they went to those lengths to satisfy the requirements.
May I
adjacent.
speak? May I speak on that? This is Nishay Patois, the owner.
Let me finish my
please.
comment, please.
I raised my hand.
Just that the commission made that owner go to the extents they did. I definitely am in favor of a cast stone option that replicates the marble, but with the water table. I know it would be difficult to do that with the current masonry in place, but it is possible. I'm just looking to fairness here with that owner that incurred this cost and us not making this property do the same. That's all.
Understood. Is there a motion at this time?
Just one very quick comment, and
Sure.
just in case I misspoke. So that project, adjacent project
Yeah.
did go through the process, but I believe that it was a vacant lot at the time
Yeah.
of. Oh, I'm incorrect.
Okay.
So it did go through the process and was approved.
Great. Okay.
I have one comment, which is that, and it picks up on what I said before. This property was designated as the home of Robert Purvis. It is therefore designated for its association with an important individual at a time after its construction.
Yeah.
And therefore, and I think one of the things that the notion that it would set some kind of precedent that everything cast stone would be relevantly applied to every rehab project in the city is spurious, because it's the basis of the designation is always relevant to how a property is treated. That's why we go through the motions of designation, or one of the main reasons. So the idea that if we allow cast stone on this property, it would be possible on every historic property going forward in Spring Garden Street is not true. It's simply not true.
Yeah, I agree.
But also, point out that, you know, the storefront had significance itself at some point. I don't know
Exactly, and
whether
it was,
Purvis lived there.
it
when there
may
was a
well have been
storefront.
there in 1920.
Right. And it's interesting, there's evidence of that storefront still there with the brick, the soldier course and the kind of the triangle bricks. So it's already a bit of a hybrid here.
Great.
So
Sounds like you want to make a
I
motion.
think the real question is, do we have enough evidence to, in my mind anyway, enough material evidence in terms of what is proposed, in terms of the issues that the questions that were brought up at the committee level about attachment and dimensionality. I mean, is that something that we can, the committee needs to look at again?
I
Is it
think
something
that,
the
that,
staff
that should be submitted to the staff, and if
Okay.
the staff feels that it needs to come back to the committee, then they can make that call. So with that, I will make a motion for approval of the use of cast stone for the surrounds and the steps as proposed, but with the details of the cast stone to be submitted for review to the staff. And should the staff think that it needs to be reviewed again by the committee, they can remand it back to the architectural committee.
I'll second that.
Great. Are there any commissioners in opposition?
Just for clarification, there's no water table proposed in?
So that's correct.
Thank you.
Are there any commissioners in opposition? Okay. Hearing no opposition, that motion is adopted by unanimous consent. Thank you so much, commissioners and our applicant. Thank you, Dan, and the members of the public. Next, we'll turn over to our last item on the agenda for the Architectural Commission, 4275 Viola Street, and we'll turn it over to Dr. John Farnham to present on this property.
Thank you. I don't see anyone in the attendees representing the application. If you are, can you please raise your hand? If you are either a representative of the property owner or of the applicant, the demolition company. No, I don't see anyone. There is one hand raised, but that is not a person associated with the project. So I'll read an overview. You may not have an applicant before you. The property with the 3-story row house at 4275 Viola Street is classified as contributing in the Parkside Historic District. The Department of Licenses and Inspections cited the property as imminently dangerous on June 25th, 2026. L&I indicated that the owner needed to obtain a permit to repair the rear side wall and the interior. In response to the violation, a demolition contractor working for the property owner submitted an application requesting approval of the complete demolition of the building. The property at 4275 Viola Street has been neglected for many years. The current owner, Haverford Square Properties, purchased the property in May of 2023. L&I issued imminently dangerous violations for the property in December of 21, January of 23, May of 25, and the current violation of June and 26. Last year in 2025, L&I issued a make-safe permit to the current owner to address the deterioration and repair the rear L to comply with the violations, but no work was ever undertaken under that permit, and the permit for the repair work expired. Section 14-1005-6D of the city's preservation ordinance enumerates the restrictions on demolition and stipulates that no building permit shall be issued for the demolition of a historic building unless the Historical Commission finds that the issuance of the permit is necessary in the public interest, or that the building permit cannot be used for any purpose. The building cannot be used for any purpose for which it is or may be reasonably adapted. So you have to demonstrate one of those two or both to qualify for a demolition permit for an historic building. The application does not attempt to demonstrate that the demolition is necessary in the public interest or that the building cannot be reasonably adapted, and therefore fails to justify the complete demolition as required by the preservation ordinance. The staff conferred with the head of the unit at the Department of Licenses and Inspections that administers ID violations, and he indicated that the violation can be complied with a make-safe permit, allowing the applicant to partially demolish the rear section of the building under the direction of a registered architect or engineer. And also, the applicant submitted an engineer's report on the condition of the building that indicates that the rear L of the building must be demolished owing to its condition, but that the main front block can be repaired. The Architectural Committee reviewed the application and recommended denial, concluding that the application does not attempt to demonstrate that the demolition is necessary in the public interest or that the building cannot be reasonably adapted and therefore fails to justify complete demolition under the preservation ordinance. There are several hands raised among the public. I don't believe that there is an applicant raising a hand. No hands continue to be raised, but I don't see anyone representing the property owner.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Farnham. The property owner is not available. I guess we'll turn over to members of the staff for public, or I'm sorry, for the commission for public comment. Seeing no comment from commissioners, we'll turn over to the public. It looks like there's somebody in the room, so we'll start in the room. Means please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. This is Hannah Stark with the Preservation Alliance, and I just wanted to go on the record that the Preservation Alliance strongly opposes the full demolition of this very important resource in the Parkside community. We can understand if the rear L needs to be taken down to satisfy the unsafe or the imminently dangerous certification, but we do not see any evidence that the front facade needs to come down, and strongly oppose the full demolition. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. So we'll turn over to the Zoom audience for public comment.
Many hands are raised. First is Ariel Harris.
Great. Thank you. Please go ahead, Ariel. Seeing as there's many hands raised and we have an agenda today, please keep as brief as you can.
Thank you, Mr. Frankel. I will do that. Good morning, everybody. I just want to echo comments from the Preservation Alliance. There's no reason this building should be coming down. It's pretty disgraceful that the property developer can't even show his face here today. There are lots of community members here in opposition of this project, and I think that the property owner should be working with the community to come to a mutually agreeable solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next public comment.
Next is Jean Allen.
Please go ahead, Jean. Jean, are you with us? Okay.
So sorry, I was muted. First, let me thank you for the opportunity to share. I am a long-term resident of Viola Street, nearly 70 years now. And my prime objective is that this house, as you can see, is not an isolated structure. It's a part of a row that kind of has maintained the character of our block over decades. It has a very unique identity, and I think it's one that should be preserved. I think that demolition of this house would create a visual disruption like we can't even imagine. If any new structure was put up there, it couldn't even come close to mimicking the character that now exists on the block. You know, many people are drawn to this area because of the historical significance and the architectural beauty of our block. And I think that by demolishing it, it would just destroy the familiar and very warm and inviting nature of the block. So I'm strongly opposed to demolition that would even create a precedent, I think. We could see it throughout our neighborhoods, and we need to stop it, and we need to preserve the beauty that already exists in our neighborhood, and particularly on this block. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you. We'll go to our next public comment.
Next is Joyce A. Smith.
Please go ahead, Joyce. Joyce, are you with us?
Once you've
Yes, I
been,
am.
Please
Can
go
you
ahead.
hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, there's no echo?
No, you're good. Thank you.
Okay, good, because on my part it is. Okay, so I'm a resident also of 4200 block of Viola Street. And I'm also the president of the Community Development Board of East Parkside. And we work closely with other East Parkside community groups like Centennial Parkside CDC and the legendary Callie Kuzar, former head of the East Parkside Residents Association. And so that's also a highly regarded neighborhood group. As a longtime resident and an advocate of the preservation of East Parkside housing, I support PAC's recommendation to preserve one of our neighborhood treasures. The community groups and residents have worked with Habitat for Humanity, Rebuilding Together, to help repair and restore historical homes in our community, and also specifically focused on Viola Street. Residents is also participating in the Preservation Alliance pilot program to help homeowners of historic properties make repairs to their homes. Their preservation strengthens the neighborhood, honors our history, and the work of the legendary James Brown, who helped lead, restore, and save East Parkside national treasures. On behalf of Parkside residents, stakeholder groups, and other supporters, we respectfully ask the Commission to continue enforcing all outstanding violations and to assure that prolonged neglect is never rewarded with approvals that undermine the purpose of historic designations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would ask our public if your hand is raised and your comment is it all redundant to the comments that have been made? If you could please lower your hand, we'd appreciate it just so we can stick with the timing of the agenda today. Thank you.
next is Julia Heyman.
Please go ahead, Julia.
In the spirit of the packed agenda today, I will be very brief, but I just want to strongly encourage the PHC to decline to reward this really egregious and shameful example of demolition by neglect in Parkside and move today to decline to demolish 4275 Viola Street in order to preserve the integrity of the streetscape, which, as we've heard today, is deeply loved by its residents and very significant to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia.
Next is David Traub.
Please go ahead, Mr. Traub.
David Traub here representing Save Our Sites. Just want Save Our Sites to go on record that we oppose the demolition of this building and we support what the Preservation's Alliance said, and particularly the two women who live on the block. They spoke so well and movingly. They're the closest to it. They live on the block. They have the greatest feeling for it. I'm so proud of their taking a stand as they did. Thank you, two ladies. And thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Traub.
Next is Evan Litvin.
Please go ahead, Mr. Littman.
Hello, this is Evan Litvin. I'll also keep this brief. I'm a licensed architect, and I am also a significant commercial property owner in this neighborhood. And I want to just briefly express my full support to the sentiment that Jean Allen and Joyce Smith expressed earlier. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Oscar Beiser.
Go ahead, Mr. Beiser.
Oscar Beiser, Keeping Society. I just wanted to express my support for the common sense solution. It's not often we see the city go common sense, and I really appreciate the idea of, get rid of the rear that's falling down and keep the main block. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar.
Next person is logged in just as Zoom user. And if you can identify yourself, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jihad Ali. I live at 4276 Parkside Avenue, 1 block from this building. And I submitted written comment on August 12th opposing application DP 2026 00768. I support the staff recommendation of denial and the Architectural Commission unanimous recommendation of denial. My objection rests entirely on the applicant's own document, and it comes down to one sequence. The owner's architect designed this building to be saved, sheet A100 in the application packet prepared by Level 9 Architects and approved by LNI last September, states in General Note A, existing building shell, building framing, and foundation are to remain. A May Safe permit RP 2025-006366 was issued for that exact scope. No work was ever performed. That permit expired unused on June 25th, 2026, the same day LNI issued an eminently dangerous violation, now offered as reason this building must come down. The condition before you is not a hardship that happened to this owner. It is a direct product of an approved repair permit this owner chose not to execute. And this owner, to my knowledge, has never brought this property to the Committee on Financial Hardship. Second point, the relief sought exceeds what the applicant's own engineer describes. The Alpha Engineering Report addresses a demolition order for the rear of the property. Its conclusion is that the front portion should be secured and braced before rear demolition proceeds. The only obstacle it names is the front at a street closure permit, permitting inconvenience, not a structural finding. The applicant's own demolition sequence starts at the rear L and clears the area of potential collapse first. Partial demolition is a phase one of their own plan. Last, when the owner wants a permit executed at this address, it gets executed. A plumbing permit here went from application to completion in 23 days this summer. The Make Safe permit set for 9 months and expired with nothing done. I ask the Commission to deny the application as submitted. If emergency work is warranted, limited to the rear L, require the front block to remain and be stabilized as staff recommends, and any condition approved on an enforceable schedule for the repairs already designed and approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ali.
Last hand raised is Allen Learning Partners.
Please go ahead, Alan.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Allen, also a resident of the East Parkside neighborhood on the 4200 block of Viola Street. I support the motion to deny the demolition of this building. I support every comment that has been made and agree with them from all the long-term residents here today. We cannot set a dangerous precedent that allows developers to neglect and bring blight to our community and to then make it grounds for demolition. It's a strategy that only further harms the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other public comment at this time, are there any further comments from commissioners, or is there a motion from commissioners?
I would like to add one thing. Dr. Farnham did read the head of our contractual services unit evaluation. I just want to have everybody understand the weight of that. The city typically does err on the side of caution in these matters. So their evaluation that the front of the building is completely stable and there's no need for demolition should definitely speak for the state of this property.
Great. Thank you, John. Is there a motion from commissioners at this time? I'm happy to do so. Go ahead, Dan. You look.
I make a motion to deny the request to demolish structure at 4275 Viola Street.
I'll second.
Any commissioners in opposition? Hearing no opposition, that motion is adopted by unanimous consent. Thank you very much, commissioners. Appreciate that. Concludes our report on the architectural committee. With that, now we're at the 1 hour or so mark. Why don't we take a brief break and we'll reconvene at 10:20 and continue on with the report of the Committee on Historical Designation. Great. Thank you. Great. Welcome back, everybody. We will now resume this 768th stated meeting of the Philadelphia Historical Commission, and we will dive into the report on the Committee on Historical Designation chaired by Emily Cooperman. The first item on the agenda is 6953 Green Hill Road, which has been continued to the November hearing. And then the next item on the agenda is 7001-09 Green Hill Road. And I'll turn it over to Alex from the Historic Commission staff to present.
Before you
Sure.
Get to 7001 to 9 Green Hill Road, a hand was raised among the audience, I believe related to 6953 Green Hill Road.
By all means.
And looks like Commissioner Thomas has. has stood.
Sure thing. Understood. Thank you, Bob.
And just for the record, if
Yeah.
I can repeat that, because Commissioner Thomas wasn't speaking into the microphone. I don't know if people
it's
out
fine.
in Zoom could have heard that, but Commissioner Thomas has recused from any discussion of 6953 Green Hill Road because he has been, I believe he said, informally advising the property owner. So he has stepped out of
Sure
the
thing.
room.
Thank you so much.
So if we could unmute Steve Masters.
Go ahead, Steve.
Good morning, Steve Masters, on behalf of the Green Hill Farm Preservation Club. We have an application for you to revoke the continuance that was granted a few days ago, and I wanted to share my screen so that I could share the application in detail.
The
Allow screen
Historical
sharing.
Commission does not allow outsiders to control the screen for security reasons.
Sure. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, can someone from the staff then put my my email that I sent yesterday so that everyone can see it?
I don't know if that's available.
We'd have to turn that into a PDF and then transfer
That's
it
not
to-
available at this time. If you could just proceed with your testimony.
Okay, sure. I converted mine to a PDF, but it's not going to work if I can't share the screen. I sent this yesterday that at 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday, August 12th, we received an email from the Historical Commission that the Commission staff had unilaterally granted a second continuance to the property owner at 6953 Green Hill Road. At 2:32 p.m. today, which was yesterday, we for the first time received a copy of the request for a continuance sent to the Historical Commission on Tuesday, August 11th, 2026 at 12:06 p.m. That document reveals that the staff of the Historical Commission granted a second continuance on that same day less than 2 hours after receiving the request. That message was from Alexander Till to Rabbi Brennan, who is representing the property owners. And it says that we are able to grant your request to continue the final review of the nomination for your property at 6953 Green Hill Road to the Historical Commission meeting scheduled for November 13th, 2026. The review of the nomination for the property at 7001-09 Green Hill Road will remain on the agenda for review at this Friday's meeting and will be voted on unless the commission decides otherwise on that date. We have basically three reasons why we think that you should revoke the continuance and bring this matter back to the active agenda today. The first ground for moving forward with both the nominations is that the granting of a second continuance by the Historical Commission staff violated the clear terms set forth by the commissioners themselves in granting the first continuance. Also, it violated Dr. Farnham's clear and unambiguous promise that the staff would under no circumstances grant any additional continuances for the property owner at 6953 Green Hill Road. I'm now going to be quoting from a verbatim transcript created by the Historical Commission's AI system with the video that was prepared for the meeting back in February 13th, 2026. This is at position 1:25:50. So it's the first after the first hour, the 25th minute, 50th second. This is Dr. Farnham speaking. So the rules and regulations give staff the authority to grant up to 12 months of continuance, but we're never obligated to do that. Again, this is Mr. Farnham, Dr. Farnham speaking. So I can make a commitment here today that we won't grant an additional continuance If there is an additional continuance request from the owner of 6953, we will put that before the commission itself and let you make a decision. That way, hopefully limit any continuances to the one that's already been granted. Then the Commissioner Cooperman and others went through a motion and an amended motion for dealing with the continuance. There was some questions about how to work with the continuance. And then finally, I think it's Commissioner Cooperman says, I move that we continue consideration of the designation of 700109 Green Hill Road and remand to its consideration to the Committee of Historic Designation in concert with the same meeting at which consideration of 6953 comes before the committee, which we expect to be between now and our July meeting. I don't know what else I can add to that. The transcript contains a solemn vow from Dr. Farnham that 1, the staff would under no circumstances grant another continuance requested by the property owner, and 2, if a continuance were sought by the property owner, the staff would refer that request directly to the commission for consideration. And 3, the transcript also confirms that the commissioners ratified this understanding and clearly expressed their desire that no further continuances should be allowed for this nomination. That's ground number 1. Ground number 2 is that the property owner at 6953 Green Hill Road reiterated their support for approving the nomination to designate their property historic in the context of in the terms of their request for a continuance. At the July meeting of the Historic Designation Committee, the property owner for 6953 Green Hill Road expressed their full support for the nomination of their property to join the historic registry. In their request for a second continuance, they reiterated the support stating, and I quote, "We are grateful for the nomination and look forward to working with the commission on our project." The only issue before the commission today is whether or not to approve the historic designation of both adjoining properties. Where each property owner supports the designation, there can be no reason for a continuance. The third ground for moving forward with both nominations today is that the concerns that were raised in the property owner's request for a continuance are in no way related to whether or not the property meets the criteria for historic designation. Instead, all of their concerns relate to design issues which are best directed initially to the staff and perhaps later to be brought before the Historical Commission's Architectural Committee. There is no need for the property owner to seek a continuance for design-related issues. Instead, the staff of the commission and the Historical Commission Architectural Committee are both available to guide the property owner with any design-related questions they may have. So fourth, I guess we would say that we received very little notice of the continuance being granted, and for that reason, it sounds like we're coming at the last minute and asking you to revoke something, but we were not given the courtesy of directly knowing about this continuance when it was approved several days before we were notified. We have corresponded with Rabbi Brennan. He is aware of this application that we're bringing today, and we respectfully request that the commissioners return this matter to consideration of today's meeting.
Thank you so much. With that, I'm just going to ask Len Reuter, our attorney, to shed some light on why this is going to stay continued and why it's within the Historic Commission's abilities to do so.
So, hi, thank you, Leonard F. Reuter, counsel for the commission with the law department. John, I don't know if you wanted to add any more detail to anything that was already put on the record by Mr. Masters. I will say, I think you heard a lot of embellishment there about what had been said previously at the commission's last meeting when the continuance was considered. I don't want to go into too many details. Dr. Farnham could probably add a little bit if he desires, but basically it was my understanding or my reading of it that one of the primary reasons for granting the continuance in that instance was to give assurance that the Committee on Historic Designation would be able to review both properties at the same time, since they're essentially, I mean, they're twins, not in the sense of like a twin building, but they're basically mirror images of each other. My understanding is that the Committee on Historic Designation was able to review both properties at the same time. So the primary consideration of the commission, I'm sorry.
No, we initially considered 700109 at initial meeting, and 6953 was continued. The consideration of 6953 was continued at the committee level.
Okay.
So I think, and John Farnham can correct me if I'm misremembering this, I think we're talking about two different kinds of continuances, or continuances for two different stages of the process. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, I think so, if I'm understanding you.
There was a continuance for the consideration of the property on the left, which I think that's 6953, right? Am I remembering that correctly? In that image? On the right, sorry, on the right. I have left-right confusion. I apologize. On the right, this hand.
I believe you're correct, but I would have to
I
double
think
check a map to make
6953
sure.
is the one on the right.
Yeah.
6953, there was, I believe the meeting in question that was being discussed by the commenter was the continuance in question was for the consideration at the committee level of the nomination for 6953 Green Hill. And we proceeded to consider at the committee level the nomination for 700109 Green Hill Road. And then at the July meeting, we then considered the nomination for 6953 Green Hill Road. So this is not, so the continuation that's part of our agenda today is not the same continuation.
Understood. Yeah. So again, just to clarify then, just so the record is clear, that's redundant. The committee has in fact now had the opportunity to review both nominations. And so again, to the extent that the committee has had that opportunity, that seems to have satisfied, I think, one of the main concerns of the original continuance request was that they had that, obviously had that opportunity, because if they didn't, you'd have to wait for that to happen anyway. More importantly, whether, Dr. Farnham's statement at the previous meeting that he would make a commitment to not grant another continuance, and what the context of that was, whether we were really talking about the committee meeting or the full commission, whether, that sort of statement, I would suggest that is not a solemn vow. The regulations clearly state that the executive director has the authority to grant a continuance of a review of a nomination, of an individual nomination, pretty much as many times, at least one time, so long as it doesn't exceed more than 12 months, and we're not at, close to being 12 months here. So to the extent, there was a mistake or somebody forgot that there was this, kind of commitment or whatever, the suggestion that they would refer any further continuances to the full commission, if it was an error at all, and I'm suggesting I'm not even clear that it was an error, that there was any mistake made given the context, even if it were an error, it happened, and the applicant, the property owner was told that the continuance was granted, and to the extent, as a legal matter, I would say that property owner has every right to rely upon that grant of the continuance, even if it, maybe arguably somebody might argue that it shouldn't have happened. That property owner had a right to rely on that. So even if the property owner were to appear, but they were not prepared to have the nomination reviewed today, unless they were to waive that, the matter is continued. And I don't think the commission would have the authority to force that review of the nomination to go forward today. That would be completely up to the property owner. The other thing too, probably another thing that's very, very important to consider, and perhaps the other parties involved here might not be fully aware of, is that the properties all under the current ordinance, the properties remain fully protected and treated as if they were in fact designated through this continuance period. Once the notice of the nomination is sent out by the commission staff, which happened, I don't know how many months ago in this instance, that property is treated as if it were designated. So any permit applications, everything like that would still have to go through this commission. So there really isn't any infirmity preservation-wise as a result of the continuance of a nomination matter. I understand there's some situations where nominations get continued like really, really long, and that could create problems. This is not that case. We're talking a couple months here. So if you have any other questions, I'm happy to.
I think that answers it. And if it's okay with everybody, I think that this motion should be continued and this matter should be continued to the November hearing, and we'll move on to the next item on today's agenda.
Can I still be heard?
I would ask you to keep it brief because I think that this has been put to rest.
Sure. So the November hearing date makes no sense to us. There are considerations of Jewish holidays coming up that perhaps the September date would not be possible, but we think that the October date there's no barrier for the Chabad folks to be able to present to appear and to consider the nomination. Keep in mind that my client are the nominators of both properties. The property owners of 7,000 and one are I believe they're here in the audience and they are very supportive, as is Chabad. So we just don't understand why it would go out for so long. Plus, there's literally no justification for a continuance on the basis that they asked for, because there's nothing that the historical commission can decide that would address the issues that they have on design at the time, because what you're going to be looking at is simply the question of whether there should be a historic designation. Everyone agrees there should be a historic designation, so we respectfully submit that if you are going to have a continuance, it should be much more abbreviated, so that because the intent at the historic designation committee was to lift up both of these properties together and to analyze them and to approve them together. They're a package, and what they wanted more than anything was to not split them apart. But every single time that we've been at these proceedings, the property owner of 6953 has tried to split it apart, and our job is to make it a whole.
Go ahead, Len.
Sure. Mr. Masters, are you done?
Yes.
Good. So just a couple very brief points. One, just for clarification, Dr. Farnham, was this submitted as one or two nominations?
I think it's technically two nominations.
Okay. So secondly, again, just with respect to the reasons for a continuance request, the rules actually clearly don't indicate that a property owner has to give any reason for a continuance. The request simply requires that they indicate that they are the property owner and they are or duly appointed representative and have authority to ask for the continuance. There's no dispute about that here. Indicate the length of the proposed postponement. I do believe, again, correct me if I'm wrong, that the property owner specifically requested the continuance to November. Acknowledge that the property remains subject to the Historical Commission's jurisdiction as though it were designated throughout the continuance period. Again, that's the law. I mean, that's sort of a redundant. requirement, since that's the law anyway, and then also acknowledge that permit applications submitted for the property during the continuance period are not subject to the 90-day time limit for review. So those criteria are met. The property owner is under no obligation to give any specific reason why they want the continuance, although in this case, I believe they did. They did not want to conflict with the high holidays and other reasons, wanted to have a little more time to look at it. So again, it's all very interesting, but I think in this instance, the continuance has been granted, and there isn't, I don't believe that the commission has the authority to take any action with respect to that at this point.
Well, I would ask the commission to have a formal vote, because that was the clear promise by Dr. Farnham at the time, and also that was the discussion at the historic designation.
I would say that that's at the pleasure of the chair. I mean, technically, this is not the continuance having been granted by the staff takes it off the agenda, but Dr. Farnham.
May I just say that, as I was saying, that we're talking about a continuance of a different item.
Yeah.
It is not the continuance to which you were referring from the past was for the consideration of the nomination at the committee level. That has now occurred, as Dr. Farnham said it would. And this is the consideration of the nomination at the full commission level, having gone through the committee process. And therefore, you're not talking about the same thing. Second, prior to the changing of the rules and regulations to give the staff power to continue consideration of nominations, it was conventional, virtually universal, for continuance requests to be granted by the full commission of 90 days on the request of an owner. The problem has arisen in the past, and we certainly are not there now, when there are multiple requests for continuances that stretch out the consideration of a nomination at the commission into years-long processes. There have been a number of different problems with that, but as Len Reuter said, we're not there yet.
Yeah. So I do not think it would be appropriate for the commission to vote on this matter. So I would consider the continuance, to stay, and we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is 7001 through 09 Green Hill Road. All right. Thank you. So we will hear from Alex Till from the Historic Commission staff to present on the matter. And thank you, Len Reuter.
Yes, no problem. I will read a brief overview for this particular nomination. First, I believe Steve Masters is already elevated. He represents the nominator for this property. Oscar Beiser also represents writing the nomination. And I do believe the property owners, Catherine Mischoff and Paul Anziano, are here with us in person today. Great. So I'll read a brief overview and then we can go into the review. So this nomination proposes to designate the property at 7001 to 09 Green Hill Road as historic and list it on the Philadelphia Register of Historic Places. Constructed between 1916 and 1919, the nomination argues that the building, along with its neighbor at 6953 Green Hill Road, represents part of an unusual paired residential complex of two stone houses with a shared twin garage and reflects the environment in an era characterized by the colonial revival style with English stylistic overtones, satisfying criterion C. Additionally, the house represents a special example of a paired dwelling site that reflects local vernacular architecture of the 18th century and embodies the distinguishing characteristics of the colonial revival style through its textbook use of historically inspired forms, materials, and compositions, satisfying criterion D. Additionally, the property comprises a masterwork of the architectural firm of Meller, Miggs, and Howe, a significant partnership that influenced the built environment of the Philadelphia region, satisfying criterion E. Finally, the property satisfies criterion J for its strong association with the early 20th century subdivision and development of Green Hill Farm, which was developed from the Morris Estate in West Philadelphia. And the Committee on Historic Designation at its July 22nd meeting voted to recommend that the nomination demonstrates that the property at 7001 to 09 Green Hill Road satisfies criteria for designation C, D, E, and J.
Great. Thank you so much, Alex. Next, we'll turn it over to the property owner if they're available. Yes, please. You can come forward and turn on that button right on the microphone. State your name. Thank you. Yep.
Hi, I'm Kathy Mashoff. I'm here representing my husband, Paul Anziano, as well. We're the owners of 7001, 7009 Green Hill Road. And we have lived in this house since 2000. And one of the first things that was brought to our attention when we walked in to look at the house was an open copy of the Miller, Meigs and Howe monograph showing our house in the book and showing that the view of the dining room I could see looking out was exactly the same as it was back in 1915. And so, I mean, since that time, we've been very interested in the history of this neighborhood and these houses. And for that reason, we have been fully in support of designation of these houses as in the historic registry, because we feel like the architectural character of these houses is amazing. And again, we just look forward to moving forward with this process.
Thank you very much. Any comments from commissioners at this time?
In both instances of reviewing the nominations for both of these properties by the committee level, the committee was very enthusiastic for the designation of this property and the one adjacent to it, which we're not considering today. And was very much appreciative of the nomination coming forward. And one of the things that, despite the fact that these are relatively small buildings, one of the things that I will speak on my own behalf that I noted in the previous meeting in July was how unusual it is that these properties were extensively published in the period. That is a remarkable register of how important they were considered to be as designs in the period of their design and construction.
Yeah. And in fact, in addition to the copy of the Miller, Meigs and Howe book, there was an issue of, I think, Good Housekeeping magazine with a picture of the house in it from that time period. So they've, clearly over the years been very well appreciated. And we have a lot of neighborhood support for this designation because the people in our neighborhood consider these houses to be almost sort of like the centerpiece of the neighborhood and very reflective of the history of the neighborhood and the architecture of the neighborhood.
Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners? Are there any comments from the public at this time?
We do have the nominator, Oscar Beiser, available over Zoom if he wants to say anything. But then we also do have one hand raised, David Traub, for public comment.
Please go ahead, Oscar.
Hi, Oscar Bazard, Keeping Society. I was delighted to write these nominations, or this nomination and the nomination for the neighboring property. They really are remarkable. Yeah, I don't know if they're exact. They're not an exact pair, but they're a remarkable, development that is mirrors one another, and all of the details of the property, the image that's on the screen now. It almost looks like, you're looking at an almshouse or something. I mean, it's like, it's really just a stunning composition. And it's what's also interesting is that the ancillary buildings are actually the traditional twin structure that we think of in Philadelphia. So that middle part, that low building, is actually the garage that has a shared party wall. And I think another aspect of this too is there's just a lot of, because of the design being by Miller, Meigs and Howe, there's just a lot of attention to details that maybe, you just think, oh, that's another 2.5-story side gable schist house. And in reality, the details on these properties are incredible. There are a lot of garden features and walls that were added. And it really is just like a remarkable pair. And as Dr. Cooperman said, they were extensively documented just after when they were being built. Just after they were being built, I mean, they might have been in at least a dozen publications that happened to be digitized. So there may be even more, documentation as more and more things become available. And it really is just an incredible design. And I think it also speaks to how the neighborhood was designed. that when the Morris Estate developed this neighborhood, they like basically, worked with the city so that the city plan would actually get revised there. They wouldn't be the grid. It would, the streets would go along with the topography. There was a creek nearby that was preserved that in other parts of the same area was capped over. So it really is a remarkable property and a center of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from the other hand raised.
We have David Traub first and then Stephen Peitzman.
Please go ahead.
David Traub, representing Save Our Sites, of course, supports this nomination, but it certainly satisfies all the criteria cited, but I just wanted to mention criteria E, the architect for the house, Milor Meggs and Howe, are very distinguished. There aren't many examples of their work within the city limits of Philadelphia, particularly in this part of the city. Their work is scattered all over the region, but it's wonderful that we're preserving one of their works of architecture within the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any public hands raised?
Yes, Stephen Peitzman.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I grew up in a post-World War II row house neighborhood called Overbrook Park, separated from the region we're talking about today by a strip of, I think, what was called Indian Creek Park. There were two branches. So I'm a little bit familiar because I had classmates, kids who grew up in the Morris Estate area. I'm not specifically familiar with these two houses except for the previous discussions at the designation committee, but certainly I just want to add my voice for strongly supporting the nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. No other public comment? Oh.
We have a gentleman in person.
Oh, by all means, we have a gentleman in the room. Go ahead. Green light on. Thank you.
Good morning, committee. Thank you for hearing me. Lance Rothstein. I'm a resident of Green Hill Farms. I am also a member of the Green Hill Farms Preservation Club. And I just want to state clearly, although we did apply for both properties simultaneously and would have preferred for both to be considered at the same time, we're very happy to have the one property considered today alone by itself and then further discussions in the future on the other property.
Sure. Thank you. Any other public comment at this time?
No other hands are raised.
Great. Seeing no public comment, are there any comments from commissioners? Is there a motion from commissioners?
I'm happy to go ahead.
Go ahead, Emily.
I move that we add 701 to 09 Green Hill Road to the Philadelphia Register of Historic Places as satisfying criteria for designation, C, D, E, and J.
Second.
Are there any commissioners opposed? Hearing no opposition, that motion is granted by unanimous consent. Thank you very much, commissioners. Next, we will move on to 520 Queen Street. We'll invite Kim from the Historic Commission to please present on this.
Good morning. This is Kim Chantry with the staff. Tony, if we could please elevate two individuals for this as the applicants. Hank Clinton, logged in as H. Clinton, and then also the property owner, Jerry Boyce. And I will read a brief overview. This application requests the rescission of the designation of the property at 520 Queen Street. At the time of designation, a circa 1860 house stood on the site. The building had been altered prior to its designation to include a garage door spanning the full width of the first floor front facade. The Historical Commission approved an application for the rehabilitation of the front facade and the construction of a rear addition in 2018. Work commenced on the project in July 2020. On July 23rd, 2020, a front dormer was removed that was outside the approved scope of work, and the Department of Licenses and Inspections issued a violation noting that a dormer had been removed and that an engineer's report on the safety of the property was needed. The following day, LNI issued a stop work order owing to the demolition work exceeding the scope of the issued permit. The stop work order stated that the demolition contractor had removed interior areas and load-bearing walls outside the scope of the approved permit. Owing to the demolition work, the building became structurally unsound and the contractor demolished it. For administrative purposes, the Historical Commission staff approved a demolition permit for 520 Queen Street at the request of LNI on November 16th, 2020, after the demolition had been completed. Licenses and inspections required the applicant to file an accurate demolition permit before they could submit a new construction permit. In September 2021, the Architectural Committee reviewed and recommended denial of an application that proposed a 3-story building on the site. During that review, the property owner was informed that, absent the rescission of the property from the register, the Historical Commission is legally obligated to require reconstruction of the building. That application was withdrawn prior to review by the Historical Commission. The Historical Commission's rules and regulations authorize the Commission to remove entries from the Philadelphia Register when the qualities that caused the original entry on the register have been lost or destroyed. In this case, the quality was lost with the demolition, and there's no longer a basis for designation. And the Committee on Historic Designation voted to recommend denial of the request to rescind the designation of 520 Queen Street. And as I said, we have attorney Henry Clinton and the property owner Jerry Boyce.
Great. Thank you so much, Kim. If we could elevate the applicant to please submit their testimony. The applicant available?
Yes, I believe he
Yes.
is elevated.
Please go ahead.
All right, good morning, Commission. Yes, I'm Henry Clinton. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, which is an LLC, and the principal of that applicant, Jerry Boyce, is also on the call. So we are in line with the staff's recommendation that rescission be granted. Just want to give you some background, and some of it is redundant with regard to what Ms. Chantry said, but I think it bears worth repeating. The designation was apparently in 1973. There's no documentation of that designation. We don't know why it was designated. We do know that as a result of the 1983 ordinance, the new preservation ordinance, that it was swept up into that designation and officially became designated in 83. The property history is in 1954, this was an auto repair place. This garage is the only garage of its kind, or any garage, on the south side of Queen Street on this particular block. The only other garage that exists is across the street at 507 Queen, and that was constructed in 2004 as new construction. It's nowhere near the age of the existing building. In 1973, the public records indicate that the garage was still in existence as it was in 2017 when my client bought it, and it was used for takeout food as well as an accessory office. And you can see there's a truck in front of it. Apparently, food was prepared and sold from a vehicle. I'm guessing it's that vehicle, but I can't be sure. It does say 1973. So that's the designation issue. That is the type of property use in the past. And now the block, as I mentioned, this is the only garage of its kind that we could find. I've walked the block. There's none other than one right across the street, and that's now a single family home. Onward to my client's purchase. So he purchased this property in 2017. The condition at the time, he purchased it from an estate, so it was an estate sale. The condition at the time was deplorable. Aluminum siding on the second floor. The outside is really a reflection of what the inside was like. It had to be cleaned out before you could even figure out what's going on with the property. My client did expend significant amount of money to get a building permit to basically renovate and rehab the existing property and also add a rooftop deck and a pilot house. It was during this construction that a beam on the second floor was noted to be rotted. And my client can address that because he's here if the committee, or if the commission rather, wants to ask him any questions. I'm just parroting what I understand to be the case. And as a result, phone calls were made. The decision was made that the property was unstable. We were just coming off of the 2013 collapse of the Market Street property. Even though the event happened in 2013, there was still litigation going on, and it was in the mind apparently of my client. He made a phone call to L&I, and then as a result of that, the building was demolished. So at the hearing that we just had a couple weeks ago, and Dr. Cooperman was there and was the chair, I think there was some concern that my client, and it was implied, not necessarily stated, that my client had some intent of demolishing this structure from the get-go. And we didn't discuss this in front of the committee, but it belies the fact that he did spend a significant amount of money on architects and engineers, and he can testify to the amount, to actually refurbish the property and maintain it. So there was no design intent or preordained idea that he was going to come in and demolish this building for his own purposes. I mean, it has sat vacant since the demolition, and he's owned the property for over 10 years. I agree with the real good summary that Ms. Chantry did of the prior hearing that we had. And I do believe that she said at the very end of that the Committee on Historic Designation concluded that the rescission request should be denied because recommending in favor of the rescission of the vacant lot could lead to the loss of the Historical Commission's authority to review any new construction. My client's intent would be to rebuild, and he's hired the architectural firm of Harmon Deutsch Oehler to design a property that is in context with the other properties that are on the block. That is, brick front, double hung windows, no bays, no siding, no overhangs whatsoever. So, my client is going to try to keep in context with the rest of the building, and there's no intent to, put up a metal clad building with bays and overhangs. Certainly not the intent. And that's why we hired the reputable firm that we did. So I'm going to ask the commission to follow the staff's recommendation and rescind the designation, which again is spurious or uncertain in my mind, and I think also in the staff's mind, and agree that we should remove the rescission and then let this vacant lot be rebuilt in the context of the existing properties. And with that, I conclude, and I will ask my client to be unmuted and just ask him about the costs that he incurred to get the original building permit, if that's okay with the commission.
Sure thing.
Mr. Boyce, are you available to hear me?
Yes. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah. Mr. Boyce, can you just talk briefly about the planning that went into the building permit that you obtained in 2020?
Well, I hired Group G Architecture, and obviously we had to go through zoning, and we paid them an initial deposit of $2,000. When all said and done, for drawings, we found out we got kicked back that was on the historical commission's list. So we, to go through, we dealt with, I believe her name was Allison Maley, and all said and done with the drawings, it cost us about $25,000 from the initial interview with Jerry Gutierrez at Group G through to the finalization of drawings and documentation we had to submit through the Historical Commission. So it was not my intent to knock it down. We got drawings to rehab the building and sell it as a single family home.
And Mr. Boyce, my testimony about what you intend to do with the building and the hiring of Harmon Deutsch Oral Architecture, is that consistent with what you're going to do?
Yes, I'd like to just build back a 3-story brick front building that matches the unity of the block that is in current condition.
I don't have any further questions. If any commission members want to question Mr. Boyce or myself, we're available.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners this time?
I don't want to get into a back and forth, but I just wanted to respectfully disagree with Mr. Clinton that there was a implication on the part of the committee that we suspected or assumed that Mr. Boyce came into this project with an intention to demolish the building. That certainly is not my recollection of the meeting.
Sure. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I would like to just add a little bit more to the context.
Yeah.
This property is within Queen Village Neighborhood Conservation Overlay, which these kinds of overlays are meant to complement the historic character of the area. If the property is not designated and the new construction permit comes in, there are certain criteria for zoning that would be reviewed by LNI. In addition to that, there are additional design standards that would be reviewed at building permit by planning commission staff, which then would regulate a habitable room on the ground floor. Certain materials are not permitted on the front, certain dimensional standards for windows and those type of things, which would complement the neighborhood and the neighboring properties. If the property is designated and they would have to restore what used to be there, there's going to be a parking garage on the ground floor, which would not be allowed by zoning because there's not room for any habitable room. So they would have to go through ZBA and then to be able to restore what used to be there. So the material is not going to be what's in the neighborhood, and the ground floor garage is a nonconformity and prevents having a habitable room on the ground floor, which would not complement what's surrounding the area. All to say that if, and in case it's designated, then Planning Commission would not have any purview because it's up to the Historical Commission to approve. So with that context, I would think that if it's not designated, then the new construction would have more chance of complementing the surrounding buildings and the historic character.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Mia. Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you.
Turn your mic on.
I want to corroborate Mina's comments. I was asked in Powhatan Village if we had a historic district, would it protect properties that were vacant at the time of designated? The answer is no. That's true in any historic district. So I said, actually, what you want to have is a, what's the name of it?
The NCOs, Neighborhood Conservation Overlay, you're talking about that?
Yeah, yeah. And so I have to say, since we're looking at what's the best result, I agree letting it go through that process would be much more effective than having it come through us. So I would, for that reason, if nothing else, agree with the staff.
Thank you.
I think that I tried to get all the issues on the table at the committee level, but I think the committee was concerned, although notwithstanding my previous comment that in essence that it was a demolition without prior approval, and that being something that obviously we don't want to encourage, and we felt we might have benefited from some input from LNI. I don't know if that's the case or not. But I thought that was an issue that was certainly something that came out at the committee level in terms of what happened and whether this was an inevitable loss of this building or not.
And I'm looking at the end result that.
Yeah, for sure.
I forgot that that area has the tool of the conservation overlay, which is it doesn't appear in many parts of the city. And it had an extraordinarily good effect in Powelton.
The end result will be a 3-story building.
Yeah.
No dormer, no roof, no 2-story building. So
Complementary materials, scale, the things that we look at, but
yeah, I think it is unfortunate because when I look at the 1973 photograph, yes, there was a garage door cut into the first floor, but the second floor, the roof, the dormer are all in place. And
that was not a new garage door.
Yeah.
That was a very old garage door.
And, the neighboring buildings show if someone wanted to bring back the facade to what it was, originally that could have been done.
Yeah, that was a I mean, we call it a garage door, but looking at it, I can't see how that was anything but pre-automobile. It's more like a stable door, frankly.
Yep. Any other comments from the commissioners? Are there any comments from the public at this time?
Yes, 2 hands are raised.
Please go ahead.
First Oscar Beiser, then Ariel Harris.
Go ahead, Mr. Beiser.
Oscar Beiser, Keeping Society. I just wanted to just express a concern in that earlier in the meeting, someone brought up, a facade being potentially repaired, and if not, it would be rebuilt in kind, and then the past I've heard of where a demolition is approved, but they're required to build a similar building on the site. I get it's not going to be archaeological, but it's some, a building that mirrors the designated resource. It's clear this was probably designated. I know there's no report, but because of the ubiquitous form of, a Philadelphia house at the time it was built. And I think that by taking this off the register, while I understand I actually, I get that there's an overlay and design review and all that, but I think the real concern that I have is that what's the penalty for demolishing or allowing a building to deteriorate to such a degree? I mean, they say a beam was bad. Beams can be replaced. They're replaced all the time. That's not a report on whether it was. I mean, my point is more that when you make someone rebuild the building that was there, it basically serves as a mechanism to keep people from allowing demolition by neglect. And so by taking this off the register, you're basically saying, well, there really isn't much of a penalty for allowing a demolition by neglect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beiser. And there's one more public comment to be heard.
Yes, Ariel Harris.
Go ahead, Ms. Harris.
Hi, good morning again. I would like to voice my concerns as well with not allowing for the reconstruction of this facade. I agree with Oscar that it's going to set a bad precedent of applicants or owners of historic properties who, will just go beyond the scope of their building permits that were approved by the Historical Commission. We have a case here where a dormer window was removed, and maybe that sort of trickle down led to some of the other structural issues. There was nowhere in the initial scope of work where the dormer window should have been removed in the first place. And so if you do move forward with not allowing for reconstruction, what is the mitigation here for the loss of a resource that is on the Philadelphia Register of Historic Places? I think that L&I, and as a former employee of L&I, I think the coordination should have been done in such a way that prevented the full demolition. I understand it was sort of at least based on what I'm reading from the meeting notes and whatnot, some of the instructions were given over the phone, but why alternative, less invasive techniques like shoring the building or providing other types of bracing to prevent the full demolition, why that wasn't considered as an option confuses me. And now, of course, the property owner wants to build something that is much larger than what was there. So, it is a little suspicious to me, just as a member of the public. There should have been no scenario where the dormer was demolished. I can't even picture a proposed roof deck on a building that looks like this. And again, as you've stated earlier, the Historical Commission does not regulate interior interior finishes or anything. So, it can just look how it did in whatever year the Historical Commission wants in the front. 1860 is what I believe the 1973 nomination says. But again, looking at the building at 1013 Winter, which is dated to 1830, I would be inclined to think it dates to earlier than 1860. Talking about even Janet Klein earlier in this meeting, she was in charge of the Historical Commission or working for the Historical Commission when this building was just designated. And then again in 1983, when all of the buildings were added. I don't think we need to be like arguing semantics of, whether something was apparently added or not. It kind of undermines the power, the important work that this commission does. And I don't really like to see the commission kind of doubting their own research and work. And just on a personal note, my great grandmother was born in a building on Christian Street that looked just like this. And I would hate to see one like this go just because a property owner's demolition contractor went beyond the scope of their demolition permit for reasons unknown to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think one more,
Please,
public comment.
go ahead, Ms. Stark.
Oh, sorry. Good morning. This is Hannah Stark with the Preservation Alliance again. Really just want to reiterate what Ariel and Oscar has already put on the record, but the Preservation Alliance also finds the circumstances around this demolition and subsequent requests for rescission to be troubling. By granting this request, as we've already noted, this effectively rewards illegal construction activities outside of the PHC approved scope that really forced LNI and the commission to issue a demolition permit for public safety. We're glad to hear that the proposed new construction will be contextual, but this commission will not have any jurisdiction or purview over what this will look like. And we think that is highly inappropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Comments from commissioners? Any motion from commissioners?
Before you move
Yeah.
to a motion, oh, I'm sorry, it's been lowered. The applicant
Thank you.
has his hand.
Go ahead. Would any commissioners like to make a motion or any comments?
I will make a motion to deny the request for rescission of designation at 520 Queen Street.
I will second that.
Are there any commissioners in opposition? 1, 2, 3. We'll do a roll call vote. Okay, take it away, John.
I can.
John or Kim, are you okay leading the roll call?
I'm happy to do it.
Sure thing.
Okay, let's go. Commissioner Cooperman,
Yay.
Commissioner Leck,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoubry,
Yes.
Commissioner Montavarian,
No.
Commissioner Mohammed,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor,
No.
Commissioner Robar,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
No.
and Commissioner Treat,
No.
and Vice Chair Washington,
Yes.
and Chair Frankel.
Yes.
Okay. Looks like it's 7-4. Do you have that, John?
Sure.
In favor of the motion to deny the rescission request.
Sure. So seeing that there's a majority vote, that motion is passed. Thank you very much, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you to our applicant. Thank you, Kim. Next, we'll move on to our final item on the agenda for the Committee on Historical Designation, and that is 3135-49 West Montgomery Avenue, and Dr. Farnham will present on this matter.
Yes, and if we can elevate Hank Clinton, back up to the panelist level. The Historical Commission staff initiated this request to rescind the designation of the property at 3135 to 49 West Montgomery Avenue because no historic resources remain at the site, yet it continues to consume staff resources that would better be directed elsewhere. The Historical Commission designated the property in 1993 for the synagogue building that stood on the site. The synagogue, Temple Beth Israel, was designed by Sauer and Hahn and completed in 1907. The congregation moved and sold the synagogue building in 1957. After the sale, various congregations used the building as a church until it was abandoned about 2010. In 2013, the lender holding the mortgage on the property foreclosed, and in 2017, a real estate company that specializes in distressed properties acquired it from the lender. Between 2018 and 2020, the city engaged in litigation with the owner, seeking to enforce more than 100 violations on numerous properties held by the owner, including this one. The large domed roof of the building collapsed in 2020. The Department of Licenses and Inspections declared the collapsed building imminently dangerous in August 2020 and then demolished the building to abate the public safety hazard in late 2020. And there on the left, you see a photograph of the very large dome roof that had collapsed into the building. At the time of the demolition, Elle and I reported to the Historical Commission that the framing of the collapsed roof was pushing outward on the exterior walls, creating a significant public safety hazard that could only be abated through immediate demolition. After the building was demolished, the site was cleared. In 2022, the current owner of the property purchased the property in an arm's length transaction. So after the building had been demolished and the site cleared. In March 2023, after the site was cleared, the Historical Commission reviewed and approved an application to construct 14 townhouses at the site. Construction of those townhouses has begun, and the staff has reviewed various building, electrical, plumbing, and other permit applications related to those townhouses. The Committee on Historic Designation reviewed the staff's proposal to rescind the designation and recommended approval of the rescission because the historic building was lost in a collapse. The remaining building was demolished legally and no historic resources survive at the site. Mr. Clinton is here again, and he is a representative of the current property owner.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clinton. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning again. I'm here on behalf of Joseph Williams. I really don't have anything to add to Mr. Farnham's recitation of the facts. I think he was on point. So there's really nothing for me to say.
Thank you. All right. Any comments from commissioners at this time? Any comments from the public at this time?
One hand is raised. Ariel Harris.
Please go ahead, Ms. Harris.
I'm sorry, the hand was lowered.
Okay.
Now David Traub has raised his
Please
hand.
go ahead, Mr. Traub.
I recall when the property, the synagogue was demolished, I went out to see the site. It's very regrettable and very sad. However, it looks like it's being replaced with a very good project row of townhouses, row houses, brick above and the cast stone below as a monocameral base. So I think that there's a pretty good outcome for this site. Should the rescission should be improved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ariel Harris has now raised her hand again.
Please go ahead, Ariel.
Thanks. Again, I feel like, construction's begun, but I would just like to state for the record that I think there could have been better coordination between L&I and the Historical Commission and other less invasive solutions other than demolishing a really beautiful synagogue in the heart of what was once a thriving Jewish community in Strawberry Mansion. When you have something like this that was sort of city instigated. I think there should be appropriate mitigation here to account for the loss of this historic resource if you do agree to move forward with rescission. We saw this happen with the St. Laurentius Church, which I know everyone's very tired of, but at least there's a plaque or something. I mean, I think that there should be more accountability and responsibility for you know, ultimately the demolition of this property falling into city hands, and maybe there could have been a better outcome here. So that's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple of additional hands raised, Stephen Peitzman and then Oscar Beiser.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Peitzman.
Thank you. Yes, it was a very, very handsome building and very characteristic of rather elaborate synagogues that were built in that period. But also this reminds us, as did a previous case discussed today, that L&I can issue appropriate violations up into the hundreds, as we just heard. But unfortunately, the ability to enforce what's been done incorrectly to remedy it seems to be over and over again found to be inadequate. Thank you.
Thank you.
One last hand is Oscar Beiser.
Go ahead, Mr. Beiser.
Hi, Oscar Beiser, Keeping Society. I just wanted to add on to Ariel's comments in the sense that by this having remained designated, if it were looked at as sort of, well, the property owner at the time let this building fall into such disrepair that it was demolished, the consequence for that is that when something new is built on the site, it's going to remain designated, and we're going to, I don't know, have the facades of the houses mimic the brick color, mimic the synagogue, something, that there be some kind of consequence for the property owner, even if it's changed hands, because honestly, the culture that's generated is we get the result of that. And that is that, well, if we know the historical commission is just gonna, allow, the city's gonna allow demolition of derelict buildings that are designated, well, we'll just let them collapse and then we can sell the property at top price. We know the historical commission isn't going to do anything anyway. So, I mean, my point is that it does establish a culture. And I think that like what happened with St. Laurentius, which was horrible, at least there's something. And it does, say to whoever, is selling this property that after this whole thing has happened, that, there will be a consequence for allowing this. And I do think that it's important to enforce things so that people don't let buildings collapse. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Beiser. I understand your concern. I think that Len Reuter is able to address this with some legal. Go ahead.
Sorry, I think Commissioner Thomas had his hand.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I do have some background with this. Back in the 90s, I think it was, we were hired by the Historic Religious Properties Program to work with, let's say, inner city congregations that had buildings that were extraordinary. Henry Magaziner was our senior associate at the time. And this was one of the properties we worked with it was then the Christian Love Baptist Church. When we took a look at it, we realized that this was the same problem that was being faced by St. Francis de Sales out in West Philly. Domes collapse. Right. It's not like you have to put a beam in or two. What they had to do at St. Francis de Sales, was incredible to save that building and to keep the dome and get the structure in and so forth. So I asked the congregation, I said, have you talked to your alumni? They said, what do you mean? And I said, well, a lot of people, including some relatives of mine, came to this synagogue. So my mother was alive then. I called her up, but she knew everybody who got married there, had been bar mitzvahed there, contacted all the families, and they came down and actually donated a fair amount of money. But it was not enough, right? If it was a gable roof or something, or a flat roof, but to repair a dome is a real problem. So I think the issue here is that, you know, in the preservation community, or us as the commission being proactive, you know, there are some buildings that were built in a way that is actually extraordinarily challenging and expensive to keep from ultimately collapsing. And, you know, I guess it's a matter of getting started early enough, you know, to save that. But that's really what happened here. And it was a center of the community. Actually, the Temple Beth Zion, I believe 18th and Spruce is Temple Beth Zion, Beth Israel. And this congregation ultimately combined with that one. So they're still active.
Thanks, Bob. Go ahead.
Hi, Leonard Reuter again. I just wanted to address some of the statements that have been made in the context of this case, and maybe tangentially the last one as well, about the L&I's enforcement capabilities, law department, the commission, and what happens here. So again, I think there's a misperception about. So I could talk about some specifics with this property. I'm not going to address specifics of the last one. I wasn't. We don't have to get into that again yet. So in fact, this property was one of several properties that the city took to court back in 2018. The property owner was somewhat notorious in the city at the time. I believe at the initial complaint, we had 4 or 5 different properties owned by the property. This was one of them that we brought to court. There were some conditioned issues, violations that had not been appealed, that were the city was seeking enforcement of. The city got an order initially in 2018 with a $14,000 fine and orders to repair the building, as well as the other buildings that are unrelated to this one. So we did go and take this owner to court, and we did get a court order, and we got fines and a court order to repair the building. Those repairs didn't take place in violation of of that initial order. So the city brought it back to the same court under the same caption and ultimately got the order reiterated and got a $50,000 fine. And in fact, those initial violations at the time were marked complied by 2019. The issues with the roof, not sure what happens. Again, there's a series of things that were happening. This, by the way, 2020 took place in August of 2020. We were still not back in the office at that time. So a lot of this was just taking place over the phone and on Teams. And in fact, there had been a collapse of the roof. L&I issued a violation notice for the collapse of the roof and ordered them to get a make safe permit. They appealed. That violation was in fact appealed to the Board of L&I Review, and an appeal to a Board of L&I Review constitutes a stay of any enforcement action unless we get a statement that it doesn't act as a stay because of public safety. As it turns out, L&I ultimately by November, I think probably started before November, September, October, L&I couldn't wait any longer because of the condition of the building and because of the things that were specifically pointed out about the remainder of the dome pushing out on the exterior walls. L&I said the building had to come down, and we made a specific determination. L&I did, in consultation with myself and the director, made a determination that the commissioner of L&I makes the ultimate decisions when it comes to public safety, and public safety trumps preservation. And it was made, the determination was made that the building had to come down at that point. And without getting into details about the owner of the property at the time, obviously there was public record about the court action that the city took. The city demolition, we got a lien for that. So by the time this property was conveyed to the current owner, who incidentally had absolutely nothing to do with any of this, I believe there were over $200,000 in municipal liens. I think that's not even including taxes. That was the cost of demolition. This was a pretty complicated and expensive demolition for the city, plus the fines that the city owed, what that were owed to the city. So again, the implication that the city doesn't take enforcement action or that it's ineffective, I think the question is, what ultimately can you do in a situation like this? The building had to come down or people were going to be hurt. So what other enforcement action could the city have taken here other than what we did and what the court gave us? I mean, we live in a society of laws, and the laws govern what we can and can't do in different circumstances. And we sought an outcome here within the fullest extent of the law, and we got it. Unfortunately, powers higher than us saw that the building was going to collapse anyway, and that's what happened. So, you know, I chafe at the idea that the city doesn't take enforcement seriously. Sure, if we had more resources, if the commission staff had 125 full-time employees like New York's Landmarks Commission has, as opposed to a dozen, you know, maybe we would be able to do more enforcement if we had more money and more resources, if we had a foundation, if we had a fund to do that. We don't have any of that. We're restricted by the resources that we have. And I think in this case, there's nothing else that the city could have done to save this building. We did everything within the boundaries of the law to take care of that.
Thank you, Len.
And Chair, I'm
Go
sorry to, at the risk of prolonging just one sentence, and I do want to
Please.
say that the Historical Commission was in constant contact with the Department of Licenses and Inspections about this. You know, there have been claims that there was a lack of communication between LNI and the Historical Commission. That is not the case. I was emailing with the head of the unit responsible for imminently dangerous properties and the commissioner at LNI at every step of this process.
And for what it's worth, that is true of the previous case as well. So again, Dr. Farnham and I and other members of the commission staff and many of you commissioners yourselves have had an extremely good working relationship with the Department of Licenses and Inspections, at least for the last 15 years or so. So that's it. Again, I think it's just a misunderstanding about how government works more than anything else. But
yeah. Thank you both. I appreciate it. Not that we need to use this time to defend ourselves, but the idea that the Historic Commission or LNI doesn't take these matters extremely seriously is pretty fanciful. So thank you. All right. With that, is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Please.
I move that we rescind the designation of 31 to 35 49 West Montgomery Avenue.
I'll second.
Great. Are any commissioners in opposition at this time? Hearing no opposition, that motion is adopted by unanimous consent. Thank you very much, commissioners. And we'll move on to our final order of business today, which is old business and the proposed designation of 580 Pelham Road -333 West Upsall Street. We'll turn over to Heather from the Historic Commission staff to please present on this matter.
This is Kim
excuse me.
Chantry. I'm going to
Hi,
be
Kim. So-
subbing in for Heather today,
ahead.
who's
Yep.
on vacation. Let me see if the property owner's in attendance over Zoom. If he wants to raise his hand, we'd be happy to promote him. And then also, I think, Hannah, this is an alliance nomination, so we have Hannah Stark here as nominator. I'll read a brief overview. This nomination proposes to designate 580 Pelham Road /333 West Upsall Street and listed on the Philadelphia Register of Historic Places. The nomination contends that the property satisfies criteria D, E, and J. Under criterion D, the nomination contends that the building embodies distinguishing characteristics of the Flemish Renaissance Revival style. The nomination documents that the architectural firm of Boyd & Boyd designed the twin house and argues that the house satisfies criterion E because of those architects. And finally, under criterion J, the nomination asserts that the building, as part of the larger Pelham real estate development, is representative of early economic, social, and historical heritage of the West Mount area community. And the Committee on Historic Designation voted to recommend that the property satisfies criteria for designation D, E, J, and additionally criterion H.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Go ahead, John.
Just for the record, I did notice that earlier today, Jim Onesti, who is the property owner, was in attendance, but he does not look like he's in the meeting now. But if he or someone associated with him is here, please raise your hand. But I don't believe the owner is in attendance.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. If the owner's in attendance or someone representing the owner, will give them a second to raise their hand.
I don't see any hands raised.
All right, great. Thank you. Are there any comments from I'm sorry, the nominator? Excuse me, go ahead.
No worries. This is the last time you'll hear from me this morning. But the Alliance, we worked with Oscar Bizart of the Keeping Society to prepare this nomination, and we really believe that this twin structure is a great landmark to the southern entrance of the Pelham neighborhood. And we really think, as Kim stated very eloquently, that its design development really amplifies the change of Westmount area from a more grand estates to a more suburban nature. So we request that you add this to the Philadelphia Register. We think it's very fitting. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Anna. Any comments from commissioners at this time?
I will just state that the committee was very enthusiastic about the potential designation of this property. I found it eminently worthy. The reason that the committee voted to add criterion H was because in our opinion, we found that it was designed essentially to be a landmark and to essentially be a signpost for the Pelham development and to stand as a grand entrance to Pelham from a very important perspective.
Thank you, Emily. Are there any comments from the public at this time?
Sorry. Yes, one hand is raised. Greg Pritchard.
Go ahead, Greg.
Okay.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak this morning. I'd like to comment in enthusiastic support of the designation of this twin dwelling. It is a wonderful example of Wendell and Smith's work in the mid-1890s, which centered around the Philadelphia neighborhoods of Overbrook Farms and Pelham. By that time, the firm was an incubator for talented young architects emerging from the city, including the Price brothers, the Boyd brothers, the partnership of Charles Burton Keene and Frank Mead, and Horace Trumbauer. Each of those architects were given the freedom to design from Wendell and Smith's kit of parts, materials like Pompeian brick, Wissahickon schist, and terracotta ornamentation, and to mold them into forms with unique character. As a result, entire neighborhoods built from the same materials emerged from the diverse minds of the region's most promising young architectural talents. This twin was among the largest, most visually exuberant, and most prominently placed homes in Pelham, standing as a gateway to the neighborhood's southernmost boundary, close to Upsall Station, and a taste of what a visitor, resident, or prospective home buyer would find on the blocks within. It is also unique. Unlike other designs made for Wendell and Smith, it was never duplicated in Pelham, Overbrook Farms, or elsewhere. Its preservation, in my opinion, is crucial to maintaining the character of the neighborhood, and its history and significance clearly warrant its inclusion on the Philadelphia Register. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak this morning.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the public at this time?
No other hands are raised.
Great. If there's no other comments from commissioners, is there a motion at this time?
I'm happy to go ahead.
Please.
I move that we add 580 Pelham Road, 333 West Upsall Street, the Wolston Home twin to the Philadelphia Register of Historic Places as satisfying criteria for designation D, E, J, and H.
I'll second.
Great. Any commissioners in opposition? Hearing no opposition, that motion is adopted by unanimous consent. Thank you very much, commissioners. Today we will forego the report on activities of the Historical Commission staff, so I would motion to conclude this 768th stated meeting of the Philadelphia Historical Commission. So moved. Thank you all for attending. Thank you to our public audience and everybody that participated. Most importantly, thank you to our Historic Commission staff who works tirelessly throughout the month to prepare for these meetings. And we really appreciate all of the insight and work that you put in. With that, everyone enjoyed the end of your summer and we will reconvene in September. Thank you.